All right, for 413, we want to compare multiple data sets using the information that we learned how to do in 411 and 412. So data sets can be compared by examining the differences and similarities between measures of center and measures of spread. The mean and median of a data set are the measures of center. So when it talks about comparing measures of center, we're talking about these specifically. These measures describe the expected value of a data set. The mean absolute deviation is a measure of spread that describes the range of the data set with respect to the mean. The mean absolute deviation, the average of the absolute values, blah, blah, blah. We found out how to find that. The IQR is a measure of spread that describes the range of the middle 50% of the data set. The IQR is the range of the difference between the third and first quartiles. The center of spread of a data set can also be seen in the shape of its graphical representation. We talked about that a little bit, but we'll go into a little more detail on that. It can also be shown in box plots where you're looking at the range and the medians. All right, so there's some key concepts. Pause this, read these, but they kind of restate some of the stuff that we already said. Basically, remember you want to look for outliers. The mean is influenced by very small or very large data values, whereas the median is not. So we talked about that as well. So symmetric, right, has a very triangular shape. Okay. Skewed to the right means it has a tail on the right. And then skewed to the left means most of your data is on the right and it's got a tail on the left. So again, it might be easy to get these confused about the skewed part. Remember, skewed basically means left-tailed or right-tailed. So it's whichever side the data tails off on, not the side where most of the data is collected. Okay, so 2 hockey teams recorded the number of goals scored each game in the tables below. Use the table to compare the expected number of goals scored per game for the 2 hockey teams using both measures of center and spread. So I'm going to swap over to my picture here, my camera, because again, I'm going to use the calculator to help me do this. You should do it as well. So make sure you're watching these. So for team 1, I'm going to write down some important information. My important information is going to be mean, median, and then I want my min and my max. Okay. Then I also want Q1 and Q3. And if I get those things for each team, then I should be able to calculate most of the stuff that I need to find. So I'm just going to write it all once. I'm not going to write it twice. All right, so here's what I did in my calculator to make this easier. I went to the data key. I'll clear it out here. I went to the data key. I put all my data for team 1 on the left column. Put all my data for team 2 in the right column. So now I'm going to hit second data to go to stats, 1 variable stats. And I specifically want to focus on team 1. So I'm going to do the data that's in L1, my first column. Hit enter. And here's my information. So 2.14 for the mean. And then down, keep scrolling. Minimum is 0. Q1, median, Q3. So Q1, Q3, median. I don't know why I started to do that. My bad. And then finally my max, which is 6. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go back and I want to do the same thing for the second data set. So second stat, 1 variable, and all I'm going to do is go over to L2. Okay. Go to calc, and we're going to do the same thing. Notice all the numbers changed because it's a different set of data. So 2.36, min is still 0, median is 2, Q3 is 3, My max is 6. And my Q1, which I think was 1, wasn't it? Yes. So what you should notice is pretty similar scores here. So let's get a couple of them out of the way. So the range for team 1, which is your max minus your min, is 6. The range for team 2, also 6. Okay, so the gaps are exactly the same. The medians are the same. Okay, the mean for team 2 is slightly higher. Again, we're just comparing this data. Okay, and then if you want to do something like IQR, then you do Q3 minus Q1. So for the middle 50% of your data, IQR is slightly higher for team 2. Okay. And that only other thing that I would say you could calculate is the mean absolute deviation. That is a measure of variance. For the sake of time in the video here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of go through this real quickly. If we find the mean absolute deviation for team 1, so we go back and we find all the distances that each of these numbers is from that mean absolute value, add them up and divide, you get that for the Ice Kings, team 1, your mean absolute deviation is 1.37. And then for the other one has a MAD of 1.55. So they're very, very close. So if we were trying to compare those, the gliders, the second team, so team 2 has slightly more variation. Or in other words, they're not quite as consistent as team 1, even though their average is a little bit higher. Okay, so just making some general comparisons between data. And we'll stop that video there and pick up example 2 and 3 in the next one.